Buzz, your girlfriend. Woof. This week, Rob and I, as the first part of our full movie Christmas Spectacular, will be covering one of the first movies I ever watched at the cinema, one of the most popular Christmas movies of all time, and without doubt, one of the finest Christmas movies this side of Die Hard. 1990's Home Alone not only stands the test of time, I'd argue that it's actually a much better movie than it's given it credit for, because, you know, you think of all the sequels that have come since, and other than maybe the sequel, which were the direct sequel, which was okay, most of them have been really poor. And it seems, obvious going back and looking at this film now why it was so great in the first place. It's because there's so much talent involved. Yes. There's so much talent associated with this film. It's like John Hughes wrote it, Chris Columbus directed it, Kevin McCass obviously gives a star to Macaulay Culkin, sorry. But like John Williams does the score. You know, Joe Pesci is in full method acting mode. Like there's just talent all over this film.
There's lots of contributing factors as well. Mm-hmm. One of them being that Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci never thought this was going to be a hit, so decided to just go over the top. And they go full Looney Tunes. And that's it, because their over the top acting is what sells it as well. So the fact that they thought they were just making a piece of crap for some unknown reason, maybe a paycheck or whatever it was, and it turned out to be this. And it all,
I don't know why
it's so good though.
Why would they think that? I mean, this is coming from written by John Hughes. This is off the back of 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, The Breakfast Club. Again, when you hear John Williams is doing the score, somebody must have clicked and gone, wait a minute, this must be pretty... And I don't think anyone thought it was going to be a hit on the scale.
But it wasn't.
Obviously not.
I have it in fact, so I don't have it at the top of my head yet, but it wasn't originally John Williams, was it? They wanted John Williams, but didn't think they would get him. So they got somebody else. That somebody else pulled out. John Williams saw a cut of the film, thought it was fantastic. So contributed to the score. So it's not that they wanted. So John Williams wasn't top of the bill. It's not like John Williams. It was just again the factors around it was like, oh, actually we got John Williams. It was all.
I'm not sure if you'd sell the film on that to someone. If you're going to Joe Pesci, don't get me wrong. When you think of scores, I mean, John Williams is the first name that comes to mind. But I wonder if you would open with that. If you were trying to get Joe Pesci on board to do the film, dude. John Williams is doing the score, so it must be legit. It has to be legit.
But how are you selling Joe Pesci on this film?
Well, the thing is, I mean, he was doing different. I mean, this is his first comedic role. It is a tough sell, but maybe they gave him, carte blanche to really go for it. And I think one of the big things is the fact that, and it's a problem with all the subsequent movies, is that you think, oh, there's going to be hijinks in the house. I mean, let's be clear. Kevin McAllister should have really killed both Harry and Marv. I mean, the violence at the end of the story is legitimately unbelievable for a kid's film.
For a start, he should have gone to jail. And we'll cover more later on, because I've got a lot around the House of Horrors, as Joe Pesci said. What I wanted to say about Joe Pesci, first of all, was I got my old man swearing from Joe Pesci. Because I can't swear now with the kid around, my 2-year-old around or anything like that. Well, I've been doing it for years anyway, but... frick. I got all that from Joe Pesci.
Well, what I call that is Muttley swearing in Wacky Races.
Yeah.
That's what, that, honestly, when we were watching it, my wife and I were like, is he literally going for the Muttley vibe? Because that is what it sounds like. But I mean, he's great. It's a strange thing. And another reason I think the sequels actually went off the rails somewhat, it's kind of like the same thing with Ghostbusters. We talk about, there's the original film, which is this perfect piece of cinema, and then it's what everybody took from those films and kind of made the emphasis in the subsequent sequels, the comic books, the cartoons, all these things. And it's almost like they missed the cynicism, of the original film and just went all out comedy and the tone was lost. And I think that's something that's absolutely true of Home Alone, because when people think of Home Alone, what they think of are the burglars going into the house, getting all fucked up. That's their overriding memory. That happens an hour and 15 minutes into an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah. That's the last 30 minutes. There's no height. For the first hour and 15 of this movie, the strongest, the highest level of hijinks are he puts on Bruce aftershave. He accidentally steals a toothbrush. It's all super low-level hijinks. For an hour and 15, all this movie really is really sweet and kind of quite fun. Well, and it's only that last 30 minutes that it goes off the rails. And because the sequels have just kind of got this emphasis on, oh, everything has to be about the burglars coming in, everything has to be about this Looney Tunes action, you lose all the sweetness, you lose all the heart, which fundamentally is what makes this movie work, I think.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, let's be fair. There's only, 6 or 7 traps. And as you say, it probably lasts about 15 minutes at a push. The rest of this film is literally about Kevin trying to survive on his own. His parents have left him. So
well, that's what this film's about, yeah.
He's at the adult up at the point.
Yeah, well, that's I mean, really what this film is about becoming independent, learning life skills, the importance of family. You know, again, we all remember, obviously, the nail in the foot, the paint cans and stuff, but really it's about him, like, washing up, going shopping, being responsible, getting over his childish fears. It's an anti-consumerism movie. It's basically saying, don't worry about all the gifts, you know, family's the important thing, which is obviously a story in a lot of Christmas films. But again, it's easy to forget watching, you know, looking back on this film, that for the majority of the runtime, that's where the emphasis lies.
Right. So you just mentioned family. So I want to actually go into the family of Kevin, the McAllisters. And bear with me here because it's going to take a minute. Okay, because as I watch this film throughout the years, and I have watched it several times, it's trying to understand who's who in this film. And only...
100%.
I'm not ashamed to admit it, that I've only just now, I think I may have figured it out, which is...
Well, we're supposed to be... It's that opening scene with Joe Pesci. Like, he is basically a stand-in for us as the kind of the watchers of the movie, where you've just seen all these people run around. It's like, are your parents here? Are your parents here? And it's just like, nobody knows what's going on. And it's not really explained until, of course, you know, you drop the bomb now.
So Heather, basically the oldest one, who this seems to be a running theme on this podcast, I had a crush on.
Yeah, well, that is one of the things, as I said, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that because, as you say, I mean, she's like, what, 24 at the time?
She's 25 in this. And also, I just figured it out as well, and it's probably me, you, and maybe one other person. She was the lead woman in Vanilla Ice's one and only film, Cool as Ice.
Which is an unbelievable film. I mean, we're not going to do it on this podcast because I would never encourage anyone to go, but I don't know, would I actually? There's a certain bit of like, there's a magical sense of history to that film. Yeah. You know, in terms of like a time and a place. Like it could never happen anywhere else other than that year, that time, and with fucking ice. Oh, it's a ridiculous film. Yeah. He spends most of it just riding around on a bike, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Just picking up women, just riding around on a bike, dealing with awesome gangsters, witness protection.
So I don't want to derail the podcast talking about Vanilla Ice.
So her parents are actually the ones who live in France. Mm-hmm. Her and her sibling, brother or sister, I'm not too sure who, are in college, so they stay in America, so they're flying over. Then you've got Uncle Frank, who is a complete prick.
Oh, he's the worst. He's the worst.
And they've got about 9 kids, because it turns out that there's only 5 kids in Kevin's little tribe. Yeah, little tribe. Yeah. Because there's Kevin, there's Buzz, there's the ginger kid, there's the blonde girl with braces, and then the curly-haired girl.
Yeah, and they don't get much characterization beyond just getting like great lines. Like they hardly do anything in the film. But she, you know, his sister gets you are what they call in France, les incompetents. Yeah. And of course, his brother's like immortal line, Kevin, you're such a disease, which I still use to this day, just to be clear.
Actually, and there's that random kid that's in Buzz's room. The one with the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
He room to have this story about the tarantula and the next door neighbor Marley. Was it Old Man Marley?
Old Man Marley, Old
Man Marley. And
he just kind of disappears then.
Because I don't remember seeing him running through the airport. I don't remember seeing him in France.
No, honestly, when you said it then, I was like, oh shit, that kid in the room. Like, what the fuck happened to him? Like you said, he probably, if I went back with a more critical eye, I'd be like, oh, he is about. But as you say, and I watched this film 2 days ago, I remember him in Buzz's room and then nothing.
Yeah.
I don't remember him appearing for the rest of the film, but I assume he must have been there for the count at the car.
Yeah, and I don't even remember him in the kitchen eating pizza.
And he's not like, so I assume, is he the brother, like, so he's going to college or something, or he's still in high school? Is he
he's got to be Heather's
Is he their cousin, essentially?
He has to be Heather's brother, doesn't he? whose father lives in France. I mean, that's the only way I can see it. Either that, or he's a friend who's just come over to say goodbye to Buzz.
Maybe, I don't know. I really should. I wish I'd been paying more attention now because does he? I can't confirm or deny whether he disappears for the rest of the film. He's just not memorable.
Whilst I'm on the track with Buzz as well, does his mum never get curious about what's in his footlocker at the end of his bed?
It's a weird thing because I think when you're of a certain age, there's just an expectation that there's certain parts of a boy's bedroom you don't go to. Because I remember my brother and I used to share a bedroom when we were younger, and under one of the beds we had like a bunch of lighters, we had a bunch of knives.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had like Playboy or anything. And I was just like looking back now, I'm just like, it was such a bizarre collection. It was just, I think when you're younger, you're just like, oh, I'm going to buy what I think are quote unquote dangerous things. Oh, this makes fire. This is stabby. Oh, I can't buy a gun. Oh, we did have an air gun as well under the bed. So I think it's just like a collection of just boys.
But no, I totally agree with you. Put it under your bed. I had my porno mag under the mattress. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Keep it under your bed.
I mean, very old fashioned.
Keep it a bit hidden, but you've got it in the footlocker at the end of your bed. That's not hidden. That's just storage.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I mean, again, it's this childish kind of like, because it's under my bed, it's hidden. It's not hidden. You think you think if your mum was like, if she went into like any boy's bedroom and just like, all right, they've got like a porno magazine in here, the first place anyone would look is under the goddamn mattress. It's the first place.
It's not hidden in a prepubescent kid's mind. That's the perfect hiding place. But what I'm saying is, there's an unwritten rule between a parent and a kid. Mm-hmm. Well, that I would assume, but I don't know. Maybe my mum went through every day. I can't.
No, I totally agree. But
what I'm saying is, at the end of the bed, that is not hidden in any way, shape, or form. He's got fucking firecrackers in there. He's got Playboy. He's got a picture of his girlfriend next to his Playboy.
This is rich kid problems. I mean, essentially at the end of his bed, he's got a treasure chest, literally a treasure chest. Okay. And it's like most of us didn't have that. And I can only assume he seems like a confident kid. He's gone to his mum and said, listen, you do not go in the treasure chest. That's my shit. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he and, is it Kate, his mum?
Yeah.
Yeah, had an understanding. And this is the more disturbing side of this conversation, I think, is like you were saying, you go back and watch this film and you're like, oh, Heather was really hot. I have quite a crush on her. I'm at the age now, 100% where I'm like, man, Catherine O'Hara was smoking hot in 1990.
Yeah, she was.
It's ridiculous. She was so great. And I was like, is this okay? And then, of course, I have that depressing thing when I check how old Catherine O'Hara was when she made this film. I'm like, man, I'm probably too old for her at this point because she was like 36, 37 and I'm like 39 now. I'm like, oh my God, I'm older than the parents from Home Alone now. Yeah. This is ridiculous. Speaking of the parents, I mean, the weirdest character in the film, I think, is actually the dad.
And that's what I wanted to ask, because you said rich kid problems. And I wanted to say, is the dad a gangster? Because no. He has this house, right? But then if you look at the Murphy's house across the road, it looks like a house that would be in Rocky 2 on the slums of Philadelphia, where Rocky would run through. Like, it's two different houses in one street that don't look like they belong across the street from each other.
I know what you mean, but the thing is that, again, another one of those odd parts of the story. When I was growing up watching this film, I always thought that Kevin's dad was the one who paid for everything. But then, of course, you're like, no, it was his brother. And like, if you're thinking about how rich is Kevin's family, what does Kevin's dad do to afford this big house and stuff like that? I was like, yeah, okay, it was a big house, but it's 1990. He's probably got his job. What the fuck is his brother up to? If anyone's a gangster in this film, it's his brother or Kevin's uncle, because he lives in Paris. He's leaving his kids behind, suspect as fuck. He's like, oh, no, your mother and I, we've got business in France, quote unquote business. Yeah. He is paying for not just his brother and their kids to come over to France. He is paying for and let's be clear, Kevin's family are already pretty wealthy. He's like, no, I insist. We're going to put all the parents in first class. We're going to fly you all to Paris at Christmas. Fuck knows how much that costs. And then they get to their apartment in Paris. It is overlooking the Eiffel Tower in central Paris. I was like, if anyone's a gangster, it's Uncle McAllister 100%. That guy is rotten to the core. I mean, I don't know how much money you've got to pull that off.
I'm just throwing it out there as well. Whose name was Rob, by the way? Just throwing it out.
Rob. Oh, thank you. Well, and the thing is, you've got Uncle Rob, over in Paris, just doing God knows what, making mad loot. You've got Kevin's dad, whose name I forget, who's it? Kevin's
Peter,
dad?
was it?
Peter, yeah.
Peter?
He's obviously making mad loot. And then you've got this fucking chump, Frank.
Uncle Frank, what a prick.
Cheap ass Frank. But again, a lot of this comes down to that John Hughes script. You think about that opening scene, and there's so many people, there's so many kids running around, so many characters. Everyone gets their moment, and with just a few lines, you totally get an idea of who these characters are. Like Uncle Frank, he doesn't actually get a huge amount to do, but we all know who Uncle Frank is. We all know an Uncle Frank, this asshole, this cheapskate asshole, and it's just kind of, again, another one of those elements of this film which elevate it above your standard family fare. Like, again, just this reminder that it's not this slice of luck that this became one of the biggest comedies of all time, the biggest Christmas movies of all time. This is quality back to front, and I think it all starts with the script. Of course, you need that lead role. You need Macaulay Culkin to absolutely knock it out of the park, and we will get to him because he is fantastic in this film, and you need that brilliant supporting cast. But I think fundamentally it all comes back to the script. And again, I don't want to underpin, Chris Columbus did a great job with the direction of this film. Like, it's a lovely looking film. It's a brilliantly made film. But I still think the magic that makes everything else work in this movie is John Hughes' script, 100%.
I think you glossed over Uncle Frank a bit too much, mind. I think you've went past how much of a dick he was. And I want to go back and I want to just mention his dickish moments. Grabbing the pizza, he grabs the pizza and he goes, "Oh, it's my brother's place, he'll pay," and he just walks off. He calls his nephew a jerk. His nephew is 8 at this point. He calls his nephew a jerk.
Right. You're going to have to Uncle Frank that. And don't get me wrong, Uncle Frank is an asshole. And that line is fantastic. "Look what you did, you little jerk." Again, making the most of that one line you have. But if your uncle or your brother calls your kid a jerk in front of everyone, I mean, imagine what you do if someone came into your house and fucking gave Riley a dressing down in front of you, in front of everyone. Would you be like, "Oh yeah, fair play"?
It wouldn't happen.
No, you would string him up. You'd be like, "Dude, what the fuck do you think you're doing? You talk to my son like that again, I'm going to throw you out of a goddamn window." And just to be clear, Rob's a big-ass guy. He could throw you out of a window, so don't talk shit about his kid. So, yeah, I was like, don't get me wrong, Frank's an asshole for calling Kevin a little jerk. But I was just like, "Dad, come on, man. You can't let your brother roll up in your house and give your kid a dressing down in front of everyone."
That's the only thing. And like, is Peter then the younger brother? Like, I don't know, but going back to...
I think he is the younger brother. And also, Peter's an old another story. I do apologize.
Going back to Frank again, when he gets to the airport and it's like, before they've sat down, champagne, it's free. And then he's trying to nick the silverware. What is it? If it makes you feel any better, I left my glasses at home, my reading glasses. Like, you've left your kid, bro. I've left my reading glasses.
Yeah.
One of the biggest disrespectful moves is totally ignoring his brother's wife in France. "Look what I found in the kitchen." She's like, no, Frank, they're for dinner. And he's going, "You want the shrimp?" I'm totally blanking her. It's like, "Fuck you, love. I don't want to talk to you at all." I just like... Yeah. Oh, my God. Like,
there's Frank a lot of low-key shithousery.
Frank is a prick.
He is. No, Frank is a prick. But it is strange because you mentioned, obviously, some of the things that happened before the flight and going on to the flight. And obviously, when you think of what kind of ages this film or kind of puts it in a specific time and place, immediately people, because of the nature of the film, think, "Oh, there's no mobile phones." What really ages this film is the airport shenanigans, of which they're like... none of this would happen now. None of it. It's like, so the kids are packing their own bags for a flight. That's never happening in 2021 because the way Kevin's brother throws the bag down the stairs, it just sounds like there's guns and fucking cutlery and all sorts in there. That's not happening. The plane is leaving in 45 minutes. They're at home. Forget about it. That's never happening. Nope. There's no, as far as I can tell, there's no security.
No, that's just running straight to the gate and being let onto the plane.
To the gate. Yeah. I mean, later on, Kate swaps tickets with a stranger again at the gate. Never happened in a fucking million years. And like you say, it's like they get on the plane, they've all got like silver cutlery, which of course he's stealing. It's like all these things that in 2021 would just never, ever happen. Never happen. If you woke up, if you lived in the airport and your flight was in 45 minutes, I don't think you'd make it.
No.
I don't think you'd make it if you lived in the airport, let alone, somewhere in Chicago. I assume it's not a short drive to the airport. Ridiculous stuff.
Kate having a meltdown in Scranton as well. Like, security would be on your back. As soon as you start having a meltdown at somebody, they would literally be stood behind you. Come on, miss, let's go. Like, you're not just going to let her just get on with it. Like, yeah, you're right. This isn't being made. And that's probably one, we'll get into in Legacy because it was god-awful. But you don't see a lot of airport stuff in the Home Alone remake.
No, I haven't seen the remake, and I don't plan on watching it.
Don't do it to yourself, mate. Don't do it to yourself.
No, I'm not going to. I watched the sequel, and it's like any of these. We talked about it, and you're much more likely to watch these additional straight-to-DVD sequels than I am. It's like, even again, when I was younger, I watched Home Alone 2. I saw Home Alone 3 was straight-to-DVD or straight-to-VHS, and I had some other kid, and obviously no Joe Pesci and stuff. I'm like, no, I don't need to see that. Like, even when I was younger, I just knew I was like, oh, that's going to be rubbish. And when I saw, in fairness, there is a bit more talent associated with the current remake. I'm not sure if it's a remake or a spiritual sequel. And to be honest, I don't give a fuck. But all I had to do was see, because I did watch the trailer just out of interest, and the one thing that stands out immediately is the kid isn't likable. Like, he's just a little turnip. He just looks like a horrible little shit. And again, one of the magical elements of this film is Macaulay Culkin's performance, because so many potentially good films have been derailed by horrendous child actors. And not only is he, one, very good, but again, you totally buy him at both ends of the spectrum. You buy him as a little shit at the start, but that natural progression he has, and again, you're not there's no big, huge beats, no like, oh, look, he's had this like moment. It's just throughout that time he spends at home, he just slowly becomes more grown up, more self-dependent, more empathetic towards everyone else. And by the end, when he has that lovely scene with Kate, his mum, in front of the Christmas tree and stuff, you're like, yeah, you've gone on this journey. And it hasn't beaten you over the head with it. And of course, a lot of it comes down to the subtlety of Macaulay Culkin's performance. I mean, he was, 8 years old? When
he's meant to be 8. I think it was released in 1990. He was born in 1980, so he's probably not about 9 when he was filming this. So it's not.
Okay,
not
fair enough. Yeah. But he's supposed to be. Yeah.
It's the first time as well I watched this film after becoming a dad, and I mean, I can't correlate the two because obviously my kid's 2.5 and Macaulay Culkin's 8. But there's just little things that you think, oh yeah, like when he wakes up in the morning and his hair is just straight up, and then my kid wakes up and he comes to the door to call me, and his hair is just like, I'm like, what have you been doing in the night that has caused your hair to just become so disheveled? Like, it's
what is going on?
Yeah,
well, that is one of the things. Oh, sorry,
and just the little facial expressions that Macaulay Culkin makes when he realizes that he has to do something, and again, this isn't a correlation to being a dad or anything, but as he's walking, because he thinks he's a criminal and he's going to jail because he stole a toothbrush, and just as he's walking down and he's thinking, because he's 8, it's the worst thing in the world. He's just committed grand larceny. He's going to jail forever. He's never going to see his family again. And Macaulay Culkin delivers it so well. And stealing the toothbrush scene was the very first scene they shot. So he's gone straight into doing this scene, and he's done it so well. It's so good.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons, especially for you and I being the age we were, that this film had obviously had a big impact across the board, but certainly for people of our age, because, I mean, whatever his age was when he was filming it, he was supposed to be 8. And when I went to see this film, I was 8. I have such vivid memories of going to see this at the Munro, that used to be on Albany Road in Cardiff. Went to see it there for it was somebody's birthday, but I don't remember whose birthday party it is. I just remember we all went to see Home Alone at the cinema, and you're seeing this kid on screen, and he's like the same age as you, and in this position, which of course seems ridiculous now, but at the time you're like, oh, imagine what it'd be like if I was stuck at home on my own. It seemed both insane and, let's be clear, scary, because I think one of the things, like, going back and looking at this, I'm like, would I have dealt with this as well as Kevin did when I was 8? No fucking way. He is so cool. Like, obviously, he learns his lessons as he progresses, but I mean, I think I would have just broken down at the first sign of my mum and dad not being there. Sheer panic.
You
Not
would
like
have gone
jumping
to
on the
the
bed, I'm going to watch movies. I'm
would have gone
having
to
a
the
mental
first-
breakdown at 8.
you would have gone to the first adult you could find and tell them what's going on. We watched this as well. I watched this around about the same age as you. So, I mean, you're younger than you, so I watched it about 7 or 8. But all I can say is my poor dad after this.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, I'm a 7, 8-year-old watching Home Alone, watching what this guy is doing to his thieves. So I am then setting traps in my house, but I don't have
You actually
washing
did
machines.
that?
So I am putting Legos on the floor for my barefooted dad to step on. And somebody's going to yell at me for saying Legos and not just Lego, but... And then I am setting...
Yeah. I mean, I was going to mention it, Jesus, but it's fine. I assumed it was an error, but...
I'm setting up little tripwires, right?
Oh my God, I cannot even imagine.
I put super glue on a door handle.
Oh, dude, like, honestly, I am literally, as you're saying that, I'm imagining the reaction of my old man if I had done that to him. Like, it wouldn't have been funny.
No,
it wouldn't have been charming like in the film.
Wasn't.
My dad would have whooped my ass.
Let's just say Rob met hand a couple of times.
Oh,
like, honestly. Like,
yeah, this is old school 1990 parent ass whoopings, because I'm just like, my dad never used to hit me on the ass, like, you know, like other kids. What he used to do is hit me on the side of my thigh, like really just absolutely, like give me a dead leg. It was an open palm. So, you know, back in the day, it was kind of like Sean Connery hitting women, like you give it an open palm slapping the face. It's like, that was okay. As long as it wasn't a clenched fist, everything was fair game. And my dad, you know, he didn't hit me in the face, but he used to, like, it was very deliberate. He was like, all right, I'm not going to hit him on the ass. There's too much pad in it. I'm going to hit him on the side of his skinny ass legs. And yeah, I didn't want any part of that at all. But I was at that age where I was just like, all I needed to see was my dad grit his teeth and I just run. Just run. It's the only way.
That's pretty much where I took it as well, around about the thigh, waist area, you know, just
painful
just on
stuff.
the side. And yeah, it was just, but I mean, in all fairness, deserved. Because I'm super gluing my dad's hand to a bloody to a handle. I'm tripping my dad up with tripwires, and I am making him step on Legos. And to this point, when Home Alone 2 came out, I had to have a 20-minute conversation with my dad that if he takes me to the cinema to watch it, I will not set up traps in the house, especially after Home Alone 2, when Kevin is throwing bricks at people's faces.
Well, the thing is, I mean, it gets pretty bad in Home Alone 2, but I mean, are we going to get to, I guess at some point we've got to get to, you know, when Harry and Marv actually rob the house. And since you've mentioned, I mean, you mentioned 6 or 7 things. I've got down 15. So, wait, right, this is what he does to them. The first thing he does when they show up at the house, he shoots Harry in the dick, which is just like straight away. You're like,
because I said traps. That's not a trap.
I would say it's a trap. You answer the door. Okay, well, it's part of the process. I don't know. I would put it under traps. He's at the door. If okay, I don't know what you put it under. You just shoot someone in the dick. It's just getting shot in the dick.
It's maiming somebody.
It is maiming. Okay, so this is going to be the same problem. So he shoots Harry in the dick. Then he shoots Marv in the face. Again, point blank range. Yes. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So Harry then falls down concrete stairs twice, which again feels low key, but falling down ice cold concrete steps is maybe one of the more painful. Well, should be one of the more painful things that happens to them.
I have this written down verbatim. As I said to my wife, after Marv falls down the concrete steps.
Well, I've got Marv falls down more stairs.
Sorry, but no, because you said about falling down steps. I said, if I was a thief and I fell down those steps, I'm done. I'm not getting back up. If I fall down the concrete steps, I'm fucked. I'm screwed. I am dead.
100%. If I'm planning on doing anything, and I fall down a set of concrete steps, especially twice, I'm like, that's it. Whatever I was doing, fuck it, I'm not doing it anymore. They're like, dude, you're getting married today. Not today. I fell down the stairs fucking twice. That's a sign. I'm going home and I'm going to bed. That is it. But fair play to them. They stick with it. So Harry's hand then gets branded. Yeah. Branded. Yeah. That, again, super dark. Marv gets an iron to the face. Dropped 2 stories onto his face, enough to break his nose, his cheekbones, whatever.
And leave a perfect mark, iron mark.
And as horrendous as that sounds, it's only the starter to what is the main course of the horror of this whole sequence, and it's without question the nail through the foot, which I would argue is up there with any horror film I've seen for just like, I'm not kind of squirmish. I watch horror films.
Oh no, but that
horror,
thing goes in. That thing goes
but
in.
But there's something about that nail going through that foot. I mean, the genius of it all, of course, is the tar on the steps, so that he has to take off his shoes. But it's like you see the nail, and again, such great direction. The foot so slowly going down on it, and you just get that sound. And I think it's because you see horror films and you see these horrendous things, people's arms being ripped off and heads exploding, but you can't relate to it. You can relate to the idea of stepping on a nail, and it makes the exact sound you would just imagine it making. I think that just makes it just makes the horror real. I think that is the word.
I was 9 years old. We were doing some work out our back. My dad was doing some work out our back. There was a plank on the floor with a nail on it. 9-year-old head thinks I am fine because I am wearing my brand new trainers. They will protect me. I step on the nail. The nail goes through my foot. I have to go to the hospital. I have to have a tetanus shot. I have to have stitches in the ball of my foot. I am not allowed to walk on my foot for a week because I will pop the stitches.
Did you sell it? And again, another one of, I think maybe one of the most underrated performances in this film is Daniel Stern as Marv. The way he reacts is so good. Yeah. I'm not going to try and recreate the scream, but he does it again later on with the tarantula. Yeah. He's just got one of the best men screams I've ever heard on screen. But it is strange, as you say, that weird thing when you're younger, like you saw the nail, and you were just like, I'm going to step on this anyway because I've got new trainers. I had the same thing with the tree when I was on my bike when I was younger. I'm not sure if I've told on the podcast before, but there was a tree where all the branches were kind of like folded over the tree trunk. And for someone, I remember cycling towards it, and I was like, I can cycle through that. Like I could cycle through the bushes and come through the other side. Like I knew there was the tree trunk in the middle. But I just went very purposefully around the same age, 8, 9, I'm going straight through the middle of it. And of course I went straight through the middle, all the branches cut my face. And then I hit the fucking tree trunk, went over the top and hit my face against the tree. And it was like one of those kind of moments where you just I'd laying on the floor, tears in my eyes, covered in cuts and bruises, like, what the fuck was that? And I'm not sure if that's like an important part of growing up, that at least once you need to do something so dumb that you're just like, wait, dude, what are you doing?
I'd like to say at least once, but I probably have about 30 or 40 stories. Not stepping on a nail, but a lot of things happened as a kid.
If you had just 30, 40 stories of you just constantly like, no, these trainers will be fine. That nail's not going to. Dude, it's happening again.
We've said
you just show up at the hospital. They're like, listen, Rob, I know you're a young man, but this is the 40th time. I mean, the first time you were 9 years old. You're 27 now. You just keep purposefully stepping on nails. What the hell is wrong with you?
Your foot is starting to look like a sieve, mate. Please stop. There's like not enough skin left on the bottom of your foot.
Put an end to the madness. Either that or go see a psychiatrist, one of the two.
You said about Kevin growing up and becoming more not self-aware. I can't think of the word. Sorry, about Kevin, how he grows up and he becomes more... Oh my god! People have to care for him, but now they can't. He doesn't have people.
Yeah, I know. What
word am I trying to say, mate?
I can't think of it.
Oh, fuck it. Do you know what? That's not even my point anyway. What I was trying to get to was the fact that we haven't mentioned how much of a genius he is in setting these traps up, but the fact that he is able to predict the movements of the two burglars, Harry and Marv, because they have to do things, especially Marv, in such a certain way to get maximum damage, because he has to predict that Marv is going to go into the basement first before finding the open window, because if he found the open window and went through it, he's not damaging his foot on the ornaments on the floor because he's got his shoes on. He has to go into the basement first to lose his shoes, to then come back up, find the window, go in, and damage his feet on the glass.
Oh, I was going to give him the benefit, and I'm not going to lie, I found it hard to concentrate on any of that because I was trying to think of what you're trying. Are you just trying to think about like being responsible? Is that what you were trying to say?
Yeah. So people have to rely on him.
Yeah.
Like, so he relies on people, but when he does something on his own,
self-reliant.
Fucking yes, thank you.
Okay, Jesus Christ. I was like, what is he trying to get at? Because I said responsible. I was like, is he trying to say self-responsible? I was like, self-reliant.
So you were saying how he became self-reliant and he became more grown up towards the end.
No, I got you.
I wanted to go on to this. I wanted to make the point where we haven't mentioned the fact that Kevin is an evil genius. But my point is moot
100%.
now because of the fact that I couldn't think of that fucking word.
Yeah. Well, the point is, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it was so well planned out by Kevin that, of course, the door is open. He gets him to go through there. He knows he's going to back out. He's going to fall down the stairs because of the nail, and he's going to look for another route. And at that point, he comes in and he opens the window to give him the opportunity. So he opens the window after they go down to the basement.
He's opened the window after he's gone down to the basement. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
My other question then is, all of these traps are to inflict maximum damage. Okay? If you're giving him the benefit of the doubt, and that he's opened the window after Marv has already maimed himself down in the basement, like the paint cans to the face, tripping over the micro machines, burning people.
Well, that is the thing I've got. Yeah,
but why the fuck is he tar and feathering him? Like, what's that doing to anything?
That's just that is the odd one, because you say most of them pretty much aim to maim. That is the aim of these. But then that one with the feathering is just like, well, I'm just going to make him look like an idiot. So that one does stand out as being a bit of an odd one, because I've got, obviously, after the nail through the foot, we've got maybe the worst of the bunch, where he burns off Harry's scalp. I mean, and it makes it worse that he's wearing that hat, because it's like he burns the hat to his skin. The
fibers are now just molded to his head, and
like make no mistake, he is, he's already got a brand on his hand, but he is very much he is disfigured Harry at this point, which is truly horrifying. Then he gets feathered, which is just kind of, a kick in the shin. I mean, it's just like needless, but it's just like really putting the boot in, I think. Then there's the Marv, as you already mentioned it, where he goes back through the window and he pushes his feet on the baubles. And I think that's such a great scene, because theoretically that shouldn't be that bad, but I think it's the sound design of when he jumps on them and the way they pop, and you're just like, oh my God, he's already stepped on a nail. And now all I can think of is when I see this scene, it's like Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Shoot the glass, shoot the baubles.
Well, there is an actual trivia that I've got as well, where it was he wore the same prosthetic feet that Bruce Willis wore in Die Hard to walk through the glass. So that's a good link there.
I thought you were gonna say the much more boring that the baubles were supposedly made out of candy.
But, no.
Yours is much better.
He wore prosthetic feet to make it look the same prosthetic feet that Bruce Willis wore.
Well, I mean, what is it? All right, so I'll run through the rest quickly. So there's the micro machine slip, which, again, pretty bad the way they go over. You could wind yourself. The paint cans to the face, that would fuck you up for real. Like, if you didn't see it coming and you're walking towards it and somebody throws a paint can into your face, again, and they fall down the stairs, again, or fly down the stairs, whatever you want to say. There's the tarantula to the face, which is amazing, because, Marv's scream.
That's not a trap. That's not a trap. That's just...
Well, it's improvisation. Yeah, it is improvisation. I guess this is more of a list of the fucked up shit that happens to Marv and Harry rather than the traps. But supposedly, even in that scene, he doesn't actually scream, because, like they said, if you scream, it'll disturb because it's a real tarantula. And he said, like, oh, I'm only doing this once. So it's a completely silent scream. And then they added the scream afterwards, and it is such a fantastic scream afterwards. I love the idea that the scene they could only do once, but there's like 7,000 takes of him getting the perfect scream, and it was totally worth it. Can
you imagine being Marv as well? Being Harry. You're looking up after you've just winded yourself from tripping over the tripwire. You look up, and your supposed friend is above you, holding a crowbar above his head, and you're thinking, what are you doing? Wait. Like, because you don't know there's a tarantula at that point. That's just... I
love the way he plays that. So there's something about his delivery in that scene. He's like, what are you doing? Marv. And he just smashes him with a crowbar. It's like, what the fuck? Again, the Muttley swearing commences immediately. And then the final thing is, of course, you think it can't get any worse. He cuts the rope. They fall into a wall. And the point is, I mean, any one of these, other than maybe the ones which aren't actually traps, as you say, when he shoots him in the dick, shoots him in the face, puts a tarantula on his face, most of these traps, other than perhaps the baubles and the microchips, could theoretically kill them.
Yes.
They're pretty high-level stuff. Yeah. And again, I haven't seen all the sequels, but, the new movie, is there, like, high-level violence in that film as well? I mean, there's no blood in this, but it is violent as all hell.
So I'm trying to think. I watched it 2 weeks ago with my wife, and I can barely remember anything about it other than the fact it was shit. So I'm just trying to think. No. Like he does do some pretty gnarly stuff, if I remember rightly, like dropping a chandelier on them. But they don't. Nobody gets hurt really. It's.
Yeah. Well, you can see why at the end of the film they'd be pretty wary. I like one of my, again, another quote we use all the time amongst me and my friends. Like when he says about going out the window, he's like, "Are you scared, Marv? Are you afraid?" Or even when Marv again, just all these like perfect little moments when they show up at the window and they can't see Kevin, and Marv just goes, "Do you think he committed suicide?" Why would he commit suicide? You lunatic? But I even like at the end when they finally catch him when he goes to the house and everything, and you think, oh, is he going to get his comeuppance? And the way, again, because it's Joe Pesci, and Joe Pesci is so great at playing truly horrendous characters, of course, it's more comedic in this. But when he grabs him and sticks him on that peg, you're like, oh my God, are they going to like kill Kevin? But instead, I have to ask this, do you think if Old Man Marley had shown up, do you think Harry would have bitten his fingers off?
I do think he would have. To the point where Joe Pesci accidentally bit Macaulay Culkin and has left a scar on him.
Oh, so he was off it. So it's not a matter of would Harry have bitten Kevin's fingers. It's would Joe Pesci, in his method acting madness, have just bitten off Macaulay Culkin's fingers? Possibly.
If Chris Columbus didn't yell cut at the right time, all of a sudden Macaulay Culkin is just going, he actually bit my finger off. Like, I have no fucking index finger. It's gone.
And Joe Pesci's like, listen, I told you, I'm going full method.
Yeah.
You didn't say cut. I told him I was going to bite his finger off. The finger had to go. It's like, well, who do you blame at that point? Do you blame, Joe Pesci for biting the finger off? Or do you, is it an oversight from Chris Columbus for not calling cut sooner? He should have known better. Well, needless to say, disaster was avoided and all he took was a nip. And, he didn't actually take the fingers off. So. Or maybe just Marley saved the day by showing up and smashing him in the face with a giant snow. What is it? Like a snow shovel?
A snow shovel, yeah. So,
and he's great in this as well. Robert's Blossom.
Yeah, sorry, before you go on to Old Man Marley, I just wanted
Yeah.
They took a lot of shots to the head. Again, a lot of shots. Concussion is a big thing these days. I mean, with rugby and all that, you've got to go off for a head check and things like that. Oh my God, can you imagine their brain must just be swirling around inside their skull.
The problem is, and again, this is a very adult way of watching this film. Theoretically, I should have sympathy at some point for these guys because, of course, they're robbing their houses. It's a terrible thing. But at some point, Kevin McAllister messes them up so much, with the nail in the foot, the blowtorch, that you should be sympathetic towards them. However, as an adult, the one scene, and it's only a line that really stands out, is the fact that they flood the houses.
Yeah.
Now, right, if you're away for Christmas and someone robbed my house, I would be upset for sure. But I'm like, house cover, I would get over it. If those bastards then, for no apparent reason, flooded my house, unforgivable. Like, rob everything. Take every single thing I own. Don't fucking flood the house. Like, you can replace all the shit in your house, in your flat, whatever. But flood damage, that'll mess you up for years.
So
that'll mess you up for years. Oh, the bastards. Marv, you son of a bitch.
They're gone for about 5 days, right? And Macaulay Culkin's about 3 foot, 3.5 foot, something like that. And when he runs into the basement, it's above his knees. So, and that was only after a day. So if they're gone for 5 days and nobody found it,
there's flooding in the basement.
Swimming in the basement.
Yeah. Like, they've absolutely fucked, the walls, the wallpaper, everything needs redoing. You're talking about months of work there, months of work. And that is the unforgivable thing. So, but by the end of this film, like, as an adult, I'm like, well, if Harry and Marv get killed, so be it. They had it coming as far as I'm concerned, because, there's something about the idea of flooding people's, again, because there's nothing to gain for them. It's just a spiteful move. Yeah. Absolutely unforgivable.
Another thing as well, as you said, as an adult, before you go on to Old Man Marley, sorry, I have interrupted you again. You say as an adult, somebody really, really needs to get Kevin to speak to a psychologist because he is an absolute psycho. Like, he is maiming people. He is burning people's heads. I know they're trying to break into his house. I know they're trying to break into his house. But oh my God, like, what is it they say?
Yeah,
in
you have to
America?
remember, he's
If they
8
break
years
into your
old.
house, whatever you do to them is legal. But mate, you're burning somebody's head.
That is the point. I think it all becomes a bit of a Looney Tunes fever dream, doesn't it? It's like, when you grow up, you're watching all these things. Like, what would you do to stop adults from getting to you? And of course, he maybe takes a touch too much joy from it. But if you were at home alone and these adults are coming to take your house, and obviously it's like, what are they going to do if they catch me? Then you're like, well, I'm going to do everything within my power. And that's why I actually love those scenes. It's pretty dark stuff, but it's everything theoretically he could do.
Well,
he doesn't have a gun. He's not going to win.
As an 8-year-old.
But that's what makes the film. Like, if you've got low-level shenanigans, those scenes don't have the same impact. The fact that you're watching it and everyone in the cinema is like, Jesus Christ, is Kevin going to kill Harry and Marv? Like, that's what adds to the joy of the film.
As an 8-year-old, do you have the wherewithal to set up a self-lighting blowtorch as soon as the door is open?
Well, that's the difference. You haven't spent, a week at home on your own. He's become essentially adult. Ostensibly, he's gone from child to man in the space of a week. I couldn't have done the washing, go shopping on my own, all these things that he's learning to do. Okay, fair play. They probably take it a bit far. And the rig that he sets up to burn Harry's head off, or scalp off, as it were, is a little bit of a jump. But in fairness, I mean, you look at what they've got in the house, the tools are there. I mean, just in the basement alone, there's an absolute smorgasbord of just random shit. There's two NFL helmets down there just in one scene. I'm like, who the hell has two of those? It's just bizarre.
I completely felt for Kevin as well when the shopping ripped. I thought, oh, mate, I feel you. Yeah. How the fuck you carrying all that home now? I mean, to be fair, mind, there was a lot of toilet paper randomly. Like, why does he need that much toilet paper?
Well, I do. When you're a kid, the one thing, you're making a list of all the things that you have to do, or you're just like, well, I am pooing a lot. That's definitely something that needs to be done. I'll give you that. I think probably the reason is just because he's, 8 years old, and they want the bags to look heavy.
Although in a post-COVID age, a lot of people might
fair enough. But there is something. It was, oh my God, it was so horrifying. It was in my old flat. So I was taking the rubbish down, like just the rubbish bin, but it was absolutely jam-packed. And between my flat and downstairs, it broke open on the stairs, and the stairs was carpeted. And it had cat shit in there and all the food and congealed. And I don't know what but it had that kind of, when everything goes into a bin bag and it just congeals into that weird brown runny shit. It was just that, but it was all over the floor, in the carpet, in a public space. I was, honestly, it fell out of the bag. I was like, am I going to cry? It feels like I'm going to cry. I didn't. I kept my shit together. But I would say it took me a good hour and a half to clean that up properly. It was horrendous.
That happened to me with a food waste bag. So I'm going down the stairs, the food waste popped open, you got all the, it's awful. I'm not going to go into the gory details of the food waste. But safe to say, I now have a different system, so this never happens again, where we have one of the food waste bins on the balcony on the flat, and I have a pulley system that I tie around, and I drop it down, then I walk down nice and quiet. I pick up
the fucking Goonies.
And then I put it into the food waste bin, and then I come back in and I pull back up the food. So it's never in my house, and it's never going down the communal stairs and destroying the stairs again. I'll have to. Come over. I'll show you my pulley system.
I am having a very hard time distinguishing genius from absolute batshit crazy here. I'm like, is this genius or is Rob gone insane? I can't decide. I was like, but that is so the actions of a man who watched too many kids' films in the 80s. That's exactly what that is.
Yeah,
I mean, if anyone's going to do that, it's the guy doing this podcast, 100%.
You tell me that you're going to want to clean up another ripped food waste bag.
No, I mean, I live on a pretty busy street. If I was just if I built a pulley system out of the window and was lowering it down to the bin outside, and there's a lot of people to be judging me there. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm ready.
Well, I will caveat. I'm
not sure if I've got that kind of confidence, but you apparently do, so God bless you.
Where the bin is that we got, it's in the car park out the back, and all my neighbours are over 60, so nobody's giving a shit where I do. So
fair enough. Well, like I said, I'm not sure if it's genius or insane, but good on you.
I'm going with genius. Right, go back to Old Man Marley. Sorry, mate.
Old Man Marley, it's not a massive part, but what's his name again? Roberts Blossom. I think he's so good in it because he both ends of the spectrum. you buy him as this scary character, despite, with the boots and everything. And, this idea that, especially when you're younger, that if somebody builds up like a reputation or somebody starts telling stories about someone, it's like, it could stick like glue, 100%.
Yeah.
It'd be like, oh, he did murder his kids or whatever it is they say in this film. But he plays both parts so well. Like, one minute he's scary, but the moment in the church that he sits down with Kevin, he's just the sweetest old man. And that scene in particular, I think, is one of the most important scenes in the film, because you think, oh, he's going to come in and he's going to be the wizened old man and he's going to tell Kevin what to do and how to think and stuff. And it actually turns out, like, it turns into Kevin telling him what to do. Obviously, he kind of instills him with a bit of advice, but he's like, oh no, maybe you should do this with your brother. And really, that's the scene in the film where you're like, oh my God, Kevin really has grown up. It's not just, oh, he's doing the shopping. It's not just, and I think before he, again, almost kills, I don't think it's an accident that this scene happens just before he almost kills Marv and Harry, because you need that sweet scene before where you're just like, just to remember as an audience that he's not a monster. He's not just out to kill these guys. He is, he's gone on this journey from this kid. And they really do lay it on thick early in the film, where it's like, oh, you can't do anything for yourself. And by the end, he's giving advice to an elderly man how to kind of patch up his relationship with his kid. And, and again, the score in that scene, it really captures like the magic of Christmas just before you get all of that kind of mindless violence. Yeah. So I just think it's another element of this just ticking every box and just getting the right actors in the right roles. But you just see it all the way through this film. But in terms of getting something right in this film, and it's something we didn't mention at the start, but I was like, would this film work in 2021? And as you said, with the sequel, obviously not. But more importantly, it's like, the whole idea of a kid getting stuck at home on his own. And rewatching it, I was looking out for all the signs that, kind of giving the film out, as it were, so why this might work. And in fairness, there were quite a few that I missed before. And you're just like, all right, I can just about go on this journey where somehow he ends up alone in the house for a week. Like, I never noticed before, when they were all around the table eating pizza, that his dad, Peter, accidentally throws away both his ticket and his passport.
His passport, yeah.
I never noticed that before.
I never noticed the passport. I noticed the ticket go.
And I think the reason I never noticed is because a lot of them were drinking milk with their fucking pizza, which is absolutely out of
insane.
It's insane. I mean, that's even more insane than your pulley system with the fucking with the rubbish.
You wait until you come down Christmas, Ryan. You tell me that's insane. I'm sorry.
It'll be a life changer. Yeah. No, sometimes it just needs to be put into practice. It's like one of my friends said, oh, if he has beans on toast, he doesn't have beans on toast. He has toast and then has beans in a bowl separately. And my initial reaction was, oh, this guy has mental issues.
And I'm
then one day,
that's lunacy.
But then I tried it. I was like, dude, it's the only way. You have to have it, because the problem with, you put beans on toast and it's okay for a couple of minutes, but unless you eat it really quick, the toast becomes all soggy because of the sauce. If you have the beans separately, the toast stays crispy, the beans are... anyway. No. Basically, we're just giving away that we're both psychos at this point. but yeah, between that, the phone line going down because of the tree, obviously, and what is it when they're doing the head count? And that little kid, Mitch Murphy, Mitch Murphy, he's to blame for all of this. Shouldn't be getting involved, but he just takes his
really quickly. Who the fuck is packing a yo-yo? That's only a bag packed by a kid. They packed.
Well, that's what happens in 1990.
Yeah, nobody's
packing a yo-yo into a fucking bag in 2021 to go on a flight. It's not happening. It's not happening. But I guess the one thing that really stretches it, and because this is a nice area in Chicago. Obviously quite affluent. They call the cops, say, our kid is at home alone. We're in France. We can't get a flight back. You've got to go over and take care of our kids. And the cops are so incompetent. Like, obviously, you get the first one. It is a great scene. He's eating the donut. It falls on the handset.
Yes.
As he's talking on the phone. It just sits there. He doesn't care. And then they send a cop over to the house. He knocks it on the door. And he's like, there's nobody here. That's fine. And then wanders off like, case closed. I was like, if someone said, there's a kid home alone, you knock on the door, no one answers. Not case closed, case open, motherfucker. Yeah. You're like, wait, something might have happened. You kicked the door in. You phone up and say, do we have the right to kick it? They'd be like, yeah, do whatever you need to do. Get inside, make sure our kid's okay. He's just like, nah, no one's home. We're fucking out. And then, of course, there's a whole issue of the fact that the wet bandits are very much wandering around that street in their dirty-ass van, scoping the place out, very unsubtly for pretty much the whole week. Nobody calls the cops.
Yeah, I mean,
guys, come on.
Two things there. The first thing, Donut Cop, played by Larry Henkin, who was Mr. Heckles and Friends.
Yeah.
It's really weird to see him with just dark hair now. After
yeah, it really is.
And
because I do think of him as Mr. Heckles now. Totally.
Yeah. Secondly, you said about the wet bandits going through in that dirty old plumber van, which looks like they're just kidnapping kids at this point in that van.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But they only said that 5 families had gone. Mm-hmm. Only 5 families have gone on vacation, right?
The rest of the street is home.
It's what I mean. How the fuck is nobody else noticing this shit?
I don't know. It's one of the weird things about the wet bandits, about Harry and Marv. It's like the opening sequence suggests that they're going to be these really smart, really switched on thieves, because dressing up as a cop
to go in
so clever.
Yeah. To find out what time the lights are turning on. He's
brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm like, once Harry starts with that, I'm like, oh man, Harry is fucking switched on. They're going to rob this place. And then, it feels like 2 minutes later, they're just standing in the street, loudly arguing about how they're going to rob the place. Nothing subtle about it whatsoever. So I can't decide if the wet bandits are geniuses or complete plebs. But of course, by the end, the answer is unequivocally plebs.
I think it becomes stupidity when you're in a group, because he's acting really smart on his own, but then when he's actually then shown with Marv, he's becoming a bit stupider. So is it like stupid by osmosis? when he's just
I think
with
so.
Him? It's like Marv's stupidity.
You could be dragged down
on him.
Yeah, I think you could be essentially, as you say, dragged down by the idiocy of your partner. It's like he hasn't been able to choose his partner. You kind of maybe think, oh, did they do time together or something like that? Maybe they grew up. And like clearly, out of the two, Marv is the idiot. It's kind of like, is it? I'm not sure if it's what it's directly based on, but when I saw them, I immediately think of Pinky and the Brain.
I was thinking,
so I'm not sure, because they even look like them, Pinky and the Brain, in terms of I know they don't look like mice, but you know what I mean, in terms of like one smaller, stouter, the other one tall, an idiot kind of thing. So I'm not sure if that was a purposeful thing. But hey,
I was thinking of Mice and Men, George and I can't remember was it?
What's his name?
Yeah.
Oh, I had it on the tip of my tongue. This is. Like,
I wanted to say Larry, but it's not Larry.
It is Larry. It is Larry.
George and Larry.
Yeah, it is Larry.
Yeah.
It is Larry. It is Larry. Honestly, it might have come from that. So this could all just be a knock-on effect. So they could have been based on George and Larry, whatever the case. But yeah, I suspect that Marv's idiocy rubs off on Harry, and the fact that he finds him so annoying. But again. They're so good in this film, both of them, and I just think
so it's not Larry. People are going to be yelling at us. It's Lenny.
Oh, Lenny! Jesus Christ! As you were saying, I'm like, yeah, it's Larry. I was like, is it Larry? I'm pretty sure it's Larry. It's Lenny. It's Lenny. God damn it! Lenny. I apologize. God, we're so poorly read. Unbelievable.
Lenny and George.
We got there eventually. There are other things, obviously, I can mention about this film. I mean, I love the scene with the boiler. Like, a classic, when you're a kid, 8 years old. And I even remember what my first job was in QuickSave. I'm not sure if you remember that old-fashioned supermarket chain from the UK. But basically on a Sunday when I used to work there, it was me and a girl who worked on the tills, and that was it. And there was like a stockroom upstairs which had a boiler, and it just looked like the end of the world. And I remember, I was 16 at the time. And I remember sometimes being up there on my own doing the stock and stuff and being like, this is freaky, man. Of course, I wasn't thinking Home Alone. What I was thinking is I've just watched Event Horizon, and I just had the kind of Latin constantly playing on the background in my head, Liberate me, save us. Oh shit, I need to get the hell out of here and go downstairs. But no, again, one of those classic childish fears. Although it did, again, the whole questions about what does his dad do to need a boiler that big. I mean, he's clearly burning bodies, right? I mean, his dad's a crook for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely if the brother in France is the ringleader, then Peter is running the American branch at this point, because there is something going on with that family.
And Frank is running he's got a bullshit car dealership where he's laundering the money. He's just the low key guy. He's just
Frank is so a used car salesman, isn't he?
He's 100% a used car salesman. He is. He almost might not be aware that he's laundering the money for his much smarter, much darker brothers. But they just they have to put up with Frank's bullshit because he's family. You don't turn on family. So they've given him this job in the car dealership, laundering money in the background for the business, which allows brother Rob, did you say it was, to live in France, right next to the Eiffel Tower, basically.
That makes it so much better. Frank is the patsy. Frank's name is on everything. Frank, I need you to sign everything. This. Frank, I need you to sign that. Frank signed, oh my God, Frank is going down.
Oh, Frank's going down. And of course, it'd be so easy because he's so obsessed with money. He's so cheap. And, you could just convince him that he's getting a great deal. Like Frank's like, oh my God, I'm the one screwing over my brothers. But when suddenly the cops, the FBI show up and suddenly that flat in France is empty. The house in Chicago, no one's there to be seen. And of course, they go through the paperwork, and like you say, Frank's name is all over it. So Frank's doing 25 to 30, 100%. At the end of this. But yeah.
Our darker take on this film is so much better.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. So yeah, let's put a bow on that for this Christmas.
I only have one more thing to mention. You got a house full of 4 adults, 15 kids, where at least 2 of them are under 10. Nobody is up before 8 a.m. Power cut or no?
Yeah, it's a little bit strange that nobody's woken up and said, "Wait a minute, shouldn't we be getting ready now?" Somebody's kind of like there appear to be 50 people in this house, and nobody's got up early and had a wander around. The idea that every single person has slept in is pretty insane. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Like this entire film, everything that's gone on in this film, the way you left your kid, the way your kid is mutilating these 2 robbers, the way these 2 robbers apparently seem to be the best crooks in the world until a kid takes them out. Yeah, I can't get my head around nobody being up before 8 a.m. That's the one thing.
Especially with Fuller, played by is it
Stephen Culkin, his little brother.
Stephen Culkin, his brother. Again, another perfect example of a character who has nothing to do other than the fact that he pulls that one face when he says, when he's drinking the Pepsi and he looks over at him and gives him the eyebrows, oh, I'm totally wetting the bed tonight. It's even Fuller, everyone has made it clear he's going to wet the bed. He's not getting up early. Jesus Christ. Although maybe he's so comfortable with it that he literally just wets the bed and just sleeps in it. That's all I can think of, which is pretty gross, man. Fuller, get your life together. But yeah, that is a bit of a push. 72 kids and nobody's getting up before 8. Come on now.
96 kids and just everyone's asleep.
Yeah. Absolutely bonkers. All right, dude. So things you love and hate section, quick fire. 3 things you love, 3 things you hate.
You want me to go first, do you?
Yeah, go for it.
Macaulay Culkin's performance, absolutely think it's on top form with that. It's great. This is actually what I love about it, but it's a bit different because it comes from trivia. But Joe Pesci wouldn't talk to Macaulay Culkin at all during the film. And he's telling so he wanted Macaulay Culkin to think he was a really mean guy just to get a performance from him. So I think that's great. And as much as I have gone on about the traps, I love the traps. I love the way that everyone is just getting taken out, and it's done so well. And again, watching it as a kid, and you already said it as well, you're just thinking, my God, this is absolutely fantastic. Would I do this when thieves are breaking into my house? The answer is no, I wouldn't. I would end up being murdered, but still. So that's what I love, mate.
I've got, again, similar to you, I've got 3 people actually. Macaulay Culkin. His performance, which I think totally holds the film together. I don't think this film works unless Macaulay Culkin is as good as he is. I've Catherine O'Hara. Again, we've not really mentioned as much as we should have. She is fantastic in this, and again, all that I find is something attractive. But I think she also delivers the best single name quote in movie history, which is Kevin. When she just realizes she's left him at home. Yes. It's such a great, just that low key moment, and it's both her, but towards the end of the film when she's trying to get back. Everything with John Candy in it. Everything with John Candy, who comes in, does one day's work, is hardly linked to the film in any way, and almost steals it regardless.
And who we never mentioned at all during talking about this film. We didn't mention
Which is insane. But that is the thing, though, isn't it? Because he almost feels separate to the film. That whole end bit, you got to remember the bit with John Candy and Catherine O'Hara, Kate, it's all happening while the house is being robbed. Yeah. So it's these great scenes when they're trying to get back, obviously, to Chicago, and she's in the van with him and his polka band, and I'm going to do some of the quotes in there because they are fantastic. But it all kind of gets lost in the narrative because at that point you're totally in on the robbery.
Yes.
So it's this weird, brilliant like side story of the film, which almost doesn't get, like you said, it almost seems, it's odd that we didn't talk about them, but at the same time, it totally makes sense because it doesn't feel like it's part of the film. Almost.
It's
quite bizarre.
such a sweet interaction as well between the two of them, and it almost feels like a continuation of Uncle Buck. Like
100%.
Uncle Buck,
and that is the reason
he moved on and become like the poker king of the Midwest, and now he's. Do you know what I mean? And now he's talking.
Now he's tearing it up in Sheboygan.
And you say about quotes. That is a quote that we use in my family a lot. Sheboygan, but
Sheboygan.
Not even the same. Like you just do something, and I turn around to my wife and I go Sheboygan. It just means nothing. It means nothing.
See, we always take the poker bit. So it's like anyway. So hits a few years ago, poker, no Twin Lakes poker, Yamahuzi poker, aka Kiss Me poker, Poker Twist. Are these songs? Yeah. Some of them fairly big hits, in the early 70s. Oh, we sold about 623 copies of that. In Chicago, no, Sheboygan. Very big in Sheboygan. It's like, it's obviously they've just left John Candy to just do his own thing.
Yeah.
Like it's the same with the great story about leaving where she's like, oh, have you ever left your kid on a plane? No, I haven't done it. But then goes off in a story about they left his kid in like a funeral parlor. Yeah. Oh, the little tyke, he was there all day. So it's like, he didn't talk for like 2 or 3 months, but he got over it eventually. Like all that, I think, was just ad-libbed. And again,
it's in my trivia. It was ad-libbed by
it was ad-libbed. Again, it's just, and it adds to the sense that these scenes almost don't belong in the film, but they totally land because John Candy is just knocking it out of the fucking park, and Catherine O'Hara is obviously fantastic still. But yeah, like you say, it almost feels like we don't need this in the film. They didn't need him and his poker buddies in the van, but they were just like, listen, we've got John Candy for a day. We've got to do something with it. Because, I'm pretty sure like Macaulay Culkin not only got the part for Home Alone, but they had the idea of it based off Uncle Buck. Yeah. They're like, oh, he was so good in Uncle Buck. There's like, oh, we'll put something together to make this work, and obviously end up with Home Alone. And I think subsequently, they were just like, listen, we can get John Candy. If you can get John Candy for a day, you get John Candy for a day, and just let him. And like his stuff is so good that even though it doesn't make sense to the narrative of the film, they're like, we're keeping it in anyway. How could we cut out poker and Sheboygan? We're not doing it. It's going in. Poker. Oh, so good. All right. So we really love those things. Clearly, 3 things you hate.
Okay. Well, top of my list was going to be Uncle Frank, but now knowing that he's being a patsy for the McAllister's money laundering criminal enterprise, I don't know if I hate him anymore. So yeah. He'll still stay there. The second thing was the tarantula, only because tarantulas freak me out.
Oh, which spiders, is completely reasonable.
Spiders freak me out.
That's fine. It's like when people say, "Oh, I've got like a kind of a natural hatred of spiders or sharks." I'm like, there's nothing unnatural about that at all. It's like completely reasonable. They're gross.
And finally, about to eat your microwave macaroni and cheese dinner at 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is he, Spanish? I know. Jesus Christ! Eating at 9 o'clock. Absolutely madness. Like a European. Crazy. Down for hate, I've got stupid cops. The fact that I don't own the McAllister's house, I find very upsetting. But without question, the most upsetting element of this film is the fact that I now apparently dress like Kevin McAllister. Like, there's no two ways about it. He's walking down the street, and he's got the boots, the jeans, the jumper with the shirt. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm pretty sure I dressed like that yesterday.
Please tell me.
This is not good.
Please tell me you've got the mittens attached to your sleeves.
Dude, honestly, I don't have the mittens attached to my sleeve. When I saw them, I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. I was like, I wouldn't mind having mittens attached to my sleeve. But honestly, I see him now. I am dressed like an 8-year-old from 1990. Yeah. It's very upsetting. I'm not sure if he's dressed like a grown-up or if I'm dressed like a fucking infant. I can't tell. It's very upsetting. When
you come down to Cardiff, the end of my road, if you as you go from the end of my road past the college towards Kincoid Road, if you turn left, travel down towards the old people's home.
I know that.
On the left-hand side, there's a Home Alone house.
Yeah, it totally is a Home Alone house. I know the one you mean exactly.
It's insane. It is like, it's got the pillars on the outside.
The fence, everything.
Yeah, it is Home Alone house, yeah.
It totally is. Yeah, if I was going to rob a house, I would 100% rob that house.
Now
But that would be the house most likely where I'd end up with a nail through my foot. So yeah.
Now I've told people where it is. I do apologise. Please don't rob the Home Alone house in Cardiff.
Yeah. Also, if you're going to rob a house, dude, make it that one. Just don't. All I'll say is, right, I'm a reasonable person. If you're going to rob a house, sure, rob that house. Just don't flood it. Don't flood it. It's unnecessary. Yeah. Don't do what the Wet Bandits did. Don't turn amusing hijinks into the actions of a monster, because that's what it eventually becomes.
Oh my God. Right. Going on about Marv's stupidity as well. When he goes down to the basement and he's using his crowbar to get into the door, he goes into the lock the first time. Then when he takes it out, he just jams it into the door frame. Like, not in the door. Just in the door frame.
Just picking that, like, that's been kind of nibbling. It's like, I'm gonna have my chance to talk about this, right? About the crowbar and going back at the wrong angle. What an absolute idiot. Of all the stupid things he did, I would say that was pretty low on the list, but fair play.
Freaking insane.
So yeah, that's another point. If you are going to rob this house, do so competently. Do it properly, for the love of God. Jesus Christ. All right, facts, of which, I mean, even I've got tons for this.
Oh, so mate. I had to stop at some point.
We have to stop at some point. Otherwise, we will be here all day. So we're going to have to tear through these, I think.
Right, so we've already covered a couple of these anyway, but Joe Pesci deliberately avoided Macaulay Culkin on set because he wanted Culkin to think he was mean. Catherine O'Hara revealed in 2014 that Macaulay Culkin still calls her mum. Is that sweet or is that creepy? I'm not too sure.
I don't know.
The picture Kevin finds of Buzz's girlfriend was a picture of a boy made up to look like a girl because director Chris Columbus thought it would be too cruel to make fun of a girl like that. The boy that was used in the photo was art director Dan Webster's son. Now, you think it's too cruel to make fun of a girl like that, and I do agree, but that poor boy having to go to school and having his friends or the people...
No one's going to know. I thought it was so convincing because I thought it was a girl. I thought it was just a girl for the longest time. So
he's going to have told somebody that he was in a film in a picture dressed up as a girl.
Honestly,
and then that person's going to have told somebody else, and then I
think it outweighs it. I think the positive outweigh the negative. Like, he's still got to be in Home Alone, one of the biggest movies of all time. I think he's fine.
Maybe we'll have to speak to his therapist on that one.
Yeah, perhaps.
The line,
because therapists are usually pretty open about talking about their clients. So that'll be absolutely fine.
The line "You guys give up or you're thirsty for more" was improvised. Mm-hmm. Joe Pesci kept forgetting that he was filming a family movie during his character's on-screen outburst, so director Chris Columbus advised him to say "fridge" instead of the F word. So I can imagine him just like how many outtakes of that of him just going fuck.
Yeah. Well, imagine the real the 18 version. Like, somebody hits you, you motherfucker, you in the fucking it'd just be swearing all the way through. That last 30 minutes would be nothing but cursing. So very different film.
John Candy improvised all of his lines. This is a trademark of writer and producer John Hughes, who also had the 5 students in the Breakfast Club improvise when they told one another why they were in detention. Mm-hmm. Many of the shots that focus on Kevin in the beginning of the movie are filmed from above his head, making him seem small and helpless. At the end of the movie, Kevin is mostly shot from below, making him seem taller and more confident. And also, now I remember the word, self-reliant. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern felt indifferent about the movie's potential during shooting, so they intentionally gave over-the-top performances, neither one of them believing this movie would become a hit.
They missed the mark on that one, to say the least.
Or did that help them deliver a great performance that helped carry the film over?
It's hard to say. Those last 30 minutes do feel like a different film to the rest, but for some reason or another, it totally works.
The movie that Kevin watches on videotape is not a real movie. We knew that anyway. But footage,
it's so convincing though. Angels with Dirty Faces, convincing.
Footage specially created. It was called Angels with Filthy Souls, along with other similar era references in the movie. This is a play on Angels with Dirty Faces starring James
I mixed up the real one with the fake one. I do apologize.
The sequel is fantastic as well. Angels with Even Filthier Souls, I think it was called.
It's pretty good.
Marv's line, "Why the hell are you dressed like a chicken?" and "Maybe he committed suicide" were improvised by Daniel Stern.
What do you think he committed? There's no way that's in the script. You think he committed suicide? There's no. Joe Pesci not laughing at that is almost a miracle. It's such a great line.
The scream that Daniel Stern belts out during the tarantula scene was filmed live on set, after Stern was assured by the animal handlers that tarantulas do not have ears. The tarantula's poison was not extracted as some had thought, This was all confirmed by Stern in Christmas Eve 2015 post on his Facebook page. This kind of contradicts the other trivia that we had, which said that
it totally contradicts what I read. So well, one of them, pick your poison, whichever one suits. He either screamed on set or he didn't scream and it was added afterwards. I actually like going back and watching it. I'd be more inclined to believe your one because it's such a convincing scream.
Yeah,
that I'm just like, probably just did it once. I don't know. I'm not sure.
It goes without saying that a lot of these facts, mine, take with some scrutiny because you never know what's true and what's not at this point in time.
Oh, well, we've read completely different. Well, I'm not going to lie. My wife did the facts for this one, so we can blame her if
Oh, my God. Wrong, so, Oh, bless her. Blame her.
Well, bless her. I just threw her under the bus, so never mind.
Everyone on set was amazed with how mature and professional Macaulay Culkin was. Joe Pesci told Entertainment Weekly, Mac is not like a 9-year-old. He's an old man already. The pages on the Playboy magazine Kevin looks through were taped together, so young Macaulay Culkin couldn't see any nudity.
Doesn't he have like a great line there as well?
No clothes on any of them. Sickening.
Yeah, it's a great line.
Macaulay Culkin's stunt double was a very short 30-year-old man.
Yeah, I got that down.
The movie was entered into the Guinness Book of World Records as the highest box office gross comedy, grossing $477 million worldwide. Writer and producer John Hughes was worried that mothers would never believe a family could forget one of their kids. Chris Columbus recalled, John really filled in every possible logic hole and the audience always bought it. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I mean, there was a lot of things around why
they went out of their way to, like you say, that is like the logic holes, as you mentioned. It's just like every single question, it's like they're one step ahead. They're like, oh, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. You're just like, it's still a bit of a stretch, but at the end of the day, it does just enough to answer every realistic question you're going to have. So, good stuff.
I still got like 15 more, so I'm going to rattle through these out. John Candy filmed this part in only one day, albeit a 23-hour day. All of his dialogue was improvised. His part was partly inspired by the character he played in Planes, Trains and Automobiles, also written and produced by John Hughes. During rehearsal for the scene where Harry attempts to bite off Kevin's finger, Joe Pesci actually bit Macaulay Culkin, leaving a small scar. The concept for this movie originated during the filming of A Scene in Uncle Buck, in which Macaulay Culkin plays a character who interrogates a would-be sitter through the letter opening in the front door. The movie originally had more scenes of the family in Paris, but test audiences wanted to get back to Kevin. So I wonder if that explained the whole criminal enterprise then.
Yeah, maybe.
John Williams stepped in when the original composer backed out. The filmmakers never thought they could get Williams, but he saw an early cut of the movie and was enchanted. Daniel Stern wore rubber feet for his barefoot scenes, similarly to Bruce Willis as John McClane in Die Hard. A deleted scene has a shot of Marv and Harry singing their own demented version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and I am absolutely gutted I haven't seen that scene. Let's see if I can find that. Chris Columbus was previously hired by John Hughes to direct National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. After a meeting with Chevy Chase, however, it became clear to Columbus that the two of them would not get along, so he asked Hughes if there were any other projects he could work on instead. This movie was one of the options presented to him.
Christmas Vacation is fantastic as well.
Uncle Frank was written for Kelsey Grammer.
Mm-hmm.
What else have I got? The last one for me then. The poster and video box image of Kevin with his hands on his face and screaming was improvised by Culkin. He had forgotten to pull his hands away as he screamed. This became the most famous shot of the movie.
Yeah, totally. I've got a few. The opening weekend was 70 million, but it was subsequently number one for 12 weeks. This is domestically in the US, of course, and stayed in the top 10 until June of the next year. June. People were still watching this film at the cinema in like summer. It was insane how big of a hit and how long the legs it had. That doesn't really happen anymore. The only film I can really think of is say something like The Greatest Showman. The musical one. That was the only one in recent years I can think of where it came out, it did solid numbers, but then it just stayed in the top 10 for what felt like an entire year. It was absolutely insane. It became the highest grosser of 1990, and as already mentioned, it was the highest grossing live action comedy until Chinese blockbuster Never Say Die beat it in 2017. Can't say I'm aware of it. Home Alone actually became a verb because of this film, as in other movies were home aloned. Because it stuck around in the box office for so long, it impacted the box office of other films. So like, this film would have done well, but it got home aloned. So the box office was subsequently halved. It's become a national tradition in Poland 5 million people turned in to watch it in 2011, which made it the most watched show aired that year, or that season, whatever, in Poland. But supposedly just everyone in Poland watches Home Alone every year. De Niro was supposedly going to play Pesci's role originally, which would have been interesting, I guess. In Hungary, the film is supposedly called Burglars Beware, which really, kind of lays it on a bit thick. And in Italy, supposedly, again, this is all based off internet facts, Mum, I Missed the Plane. And Home Alone 2 is called Mum, I Missed the Plane Again, and Now I'm Lost in New York. So pretty catchy title.
That's a big-ass title.
Yeah. Back in the US airport in Scranton, when Kate is trying to get a ticket to get back to Chicago, some people are convinced that Elvis is in the background behind her. And if you do look in that scene, there is a guy who looks like a slightly older Elvis. I guess he would have been potentially the right age in 1990. So that's an interesting one if you go back and look at it, because he does look a bit like Elvis. Sorry, excuse me. I got the John Candy thing. And in the original cut of the movie, Uncle Frank was supposed to be the bad guy, which kind of leans into our theory, but maybe he's kind of cottoned on, because the idea was that he was supposed to be jealous of his brothers, because obviously he's not doing as well as Peter and Rob. So he hires the Wet Bandits to rob their house. So Frank is the bad guy. Or maybe he realized that his name was all over the paperwork and he was going to screw them over first. But that's all that I've got for facts.
I just want to say, on one of your facts, you mentioned Never Say Die. I had to Google it to see what it was. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read you the synopsis, right?
Oh, the Chinese film, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A male UFC boxer switches bodies with the female reporter who exposed his bribes. Now they must help each other win the championship.
Amazing. So you can see why it was such a big hit, obviously. Jesus Christ. Well, let's just say that comedy doesn't always travel well, let's put it that way. Soundtrack, we won't go into that in any great deal, because we've already mentioned the fact that John Williams, it's this perfect combination of fun, whimsy, and classical Christmas tunes. Yeah. And I think it's an absolute massive part of this film.
Oh, yeah. It is so good.
There's so many important elements that make this film as special and as good as it is, and a big part of that is John Williams' score, and it shouldn't be underestimated. So yeah, fantastic soundtrack. Legacy, it's got a massive legacy, very mixed. 5 sequels, I think it is. There's been novelizations, board games, video games we'll get to into in a minute. But the one thing which always stood out for me was the bizarre and probably unintentional homage to Home Alone in Skyfall. Like, the end of Skyfall where Albert Finney shows up and it's in Glencoe in Scotland, and they kind of tool the house up. I was like, I loved Skyfall, but I couldn't get on board with the ending, because I was just like, dude, this just looks like Home Alone, but with James Bond setting up the house instead of Kevin McAllister. And after, I think it was like a month after it was released, somebody had taken that scene and just added the Home Alone music. So it's like James Bond going around the house, dun, 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 and it just fits perfectly. And it's absolutely ruined the end of Skyfall. So there's that.
You glossed over the sequels a little bit, don't?
So we'll get back to that now. I was just saying one of the other ones was, because it kind of links into what a different film this could have been. It's actually one of our listeners, Stuart again, who said I should watch the Family Guy sketch on Home Alone, and it's very brief, and it's basically just the robbers show up. He puts his hand on the hand. He goes, "Oh, the handle was a bit hot, but I just removed my hand. It was fine." They go into the house. Kevin shows up at the top of the stairs. He goes, "Guys, I've got a tarantula," and they just shoot him in the head, and he's dead. And it's like that. Yes, that is the other version to the end of this film. If you've got competent robbers, for sure. But yes, the sequels, a mixed bag to say the least.
Yeah. So you had Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, which I would say, even though Home Alone was better, Home Alone 2 is still great.
It's a really good sequel.
Yeah, Home Alone 3 then was, as you say, they tried to be more high tech with it.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's still of the sequels, it's still the better sequel, because
I haven't seen it, and I'm just like terrible. I'm just
4
not having
or 5 then were direct to TV, and they try, if I remember rightly, they try to bring back Kevin McAllister, and one of them has Marv but no Harry. But it's not Daniel Stern; it's somebody else. It's Marv and his missus from prison.
Yeah, it's just all the signs of just it being rubbish.
Terrible. And then then you got the remake. Then, as I've already said, it's not a good remake. The only reason I thought it would be interesting is because I love the kid who is in Jojo Rabbit as Yorkie, and I thought if he could carry that on.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a perfect example of terrible casting because he's in Jojo Rabbit, but he's very much doing a bit.
Yeah,
it's like like I really liked him in Jojo Rabbit, but at no point did I see him in that film and thought, I want to see him starring in his own film. I want to see someone build a movie around this kid.
It's
like,
traditional.
When you saw Uncle Buck, you're like, oh, this kid's Macaulay Culkin's got something. You can imagine somebody building a film around it. Not that kid. But again, he hasn't got, like, let's be clear, it's not just his fault. The talent isn't there around him.
And it's traditional Disney fare at this point, made definitely because Home Alone was made for adults and kids. Home Alone, Home Sweet Home Alone is definitely just made for kids, to the point where the robbers are misunderstood. There's a reason why they're trying to do it, and the families become. I spoilers for anyone who wants to watch that film.
I'm fine.
The families become friends at the end. They're all friends. The next year, then they're all having dinner around the table together. It's terrible. And I thought, Rob Delaney is one of the robbers. That would be quite good.
I do like Rob Delaney, yeah.
Yeah, but mate, you like Rob Delaney? Watch something else with Rob Delaney and don't watch this.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm not watching this film. There's just no chance at all.
So, should we move on to video games? Because there's quite a few for this.
Yeah, there was a whole mess of them, and I did the usual spiel back in the 90s. There was obviously a bunch for the sequel and stuff as well, but they were on like the NES, the Master System, the Mega Drive, Genesis, whatever you want to call it, the Game Gear, the Game Boy, the Amiga. And like I said, I did always want a copy, never got one. But you look back, they weren't great games. I have played them since on an emulator, a few of them at least, and they're not fantastic. I mean, have you got any more? Because there were quite a few more, and I've not listed them all.
No, so there was obviously you said NES. There was a SNES version as well, Game Boy. No, not really. I think you've covered most of them.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of if I was going to do one today, it's a bit trickier. But the most obvious one to me, maybe just because it's got home in the title, is a game called Gone Home. It's an exploration game by Fulbright, and tonally it's very different. But it's about a young woman who returns to a family home in Oregon, and basically she's the only one home, and she pieces together like the recent events that have gone on in her family. So I was like, well, you could do something like that, but it'd be Kevin waking up in the house and piecing together what his family are really like. So basically what I'm doing is removing all the robbers it's just more of a kind of thoughtful, it's putting the emphasis on the first half of the film, where Kevin's just grown up. And I thought it'd be like an interesting twist on the narrative of the film if it's just him putting together the evil criminal empire that his family have built. So despite the fact, it's this sweet, 2.17 kids, whatever it is, in their, Chicago home. It's like he's going through his dad's desk. He's putting together his dad's involvement, the fact that Rob is this kind of clear, like, evil overlord. He's got this criminal empire. Frank's involvement, how he's set up to take the fall. So really, that's the emphasis. It's just Kevin wandering about the house, doing basic chores while finding out that his whole life is basically a lie. So that's what I would go for.
So I go for two. I'd go, first of all, maybe like Mario Maker, where you can make your own levels.
Okay, yeah.
So obviously you're making your own traps, and the robbers got to go through, and you've got to stop them from getting to the end of the level.
Yeah, you could almost have like a thing where there's like a balance, where you've got to get the fine balance between you want to stop them from getting to you, but at the same time, if you go too far, you kill them and end up in prison. So it's like you've got to get the kind of traps just right, where you're maiming, but you're not murdering.
Yes. And the second one, I'd actually do it from the robber's point of view.
Okay, yeah.
Where you've got to go through the house, you've got to avoid the traps, and I'm not too sure what kind of style that would be, but it'd be interesting to see it from Harry and Marv's point of view as they're walking through, avoiding. So if you
complete the game, does it end with you biting off Kevin's fingers?
I mean, if you've done the whole game and you've completed all the levels, you've got to have some sort of reward, haven't you?
100%. Like, that could almost be like, if you complete the game standard, you just get to, like, you rob the house, you flood it, whatever. But if you like 100% everything, you get to murder Kevin.
Yeah,
I think that seems fair enough.
You get to send Kevin through your own house of traps.
Yeah, something like, you just shoot him, I don't know, or bite his fingers off, whatever. He needs to say Kevin's getting his comeuppance if you 100% that game.
So I got a feeling that the next section then isn't going to be a surprise, but we'll do it anyway. Let's rate it and recommend it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to recommend it to anyone because I think everybody has seen Home Alone. If by some chance you hadn't seen Home Alone, of course I'm going to tell you to watch it because it is, without question, one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made. Like, it's that good. And it's just, in and of itself, a fantastic movie. It's a 5-star movie without question, as far as I'm concerned. Like in terms of setting out, achieving what it set out to do, I think it absolutely nails it. As I say, it's one of those films I'll happily watch every year. There's, and we will get to some of these as we go through our seasonal podcast this year. But like, this is amongst the films where I'm like, oh, it's Christmas, it's time to watch Home Alone. And there's a reason for it. It's not just tradition. It's a really, really good movie. Yeah,
totally agree. So imagine everything Liam just said, but with my voice.
Oh yeah, that works. That works. Yeah. I'm glad when this works out. We either really, it's always extremes with you and I. We either absolutely agree on everything, or we totally disagree on everything. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that makes for good podcasting or not. But the facts are the facts.
I mean, our 7 listeners seem to come back every week, so happy days.
Yeah. So something's working out.
But no, I totally agree. As you've already said, who hasn't watched this film? I mean, my recommendation always goes back to my cousin. My cousin Emma loves this film, watches this film at least once a week. Okay.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
Yes,
that's a bit much.
But it's her favourite film, that and I believe Titanic, but blames me for it. So
what the fuck?
Yeah, so I was the
Home Alone and Titanic. All right, yeah, sure, let's go with it. I mean, both good movies. Really. Yeah. I mean, Titanic, despite the criticism it gets, is a really well-made film, but it's an odd collection for a kid to be like, these are my 2 favourite films. Yeah, Home Alone and Titanic. It couldn't have been weirder if you had said Home Alone and Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It's just, okay, fair enough, whatever.
No, Home Alone and Titanic. To the point where, I think I've already mentioned it, but her nearly 2-year-old daughter is obsessed with Home Alone as well. Where she can actually, if you say to her, what does Kevin do in Home Alone? Mm-hmm. The daughter will go, and put her hands to the screen. So it's absolutely fantastic. But so that was my first ever recommendation, apparently, and it's stuck nearly 20 years on.
Well, it's a solid choice because, again, if you're going to recommend, if someone hadn't seen Home Alone, I mean, it's a solid recommendation to say the least.
And obviously 5-star. It's a great film. It always has. Mm-hmm. I always watch it. I at Christmas time, same as you, and I always enjoy it. To the point.
Well, yeah, that is the difference between.
That same cousin bought me a Home Alone jumper that I put on our social media that I have to wear when I'm watching Home Alone, or apparently recording a podcast.
Well, which is fine if you're watching it like once a year, if you're watching it once every week. If you're watching this in March wearing a Christmas jumper with the Home Alone characters, you look like a bit of a psycho, but yeah, fair enough. And that is the difference between this and, don't get me wrong, Die Hard is still a Christmas film. We're not going to get into all that again. But it's not a Christmas film in the same way that this is a Christmas film. I can watch Die Hard in March. There was a reason it was absolutely fine for us to do a podcast on Die Hard in June or wherever the fuck we did it. Yeah. Whereas Home Alone, I'm not watching Home Alone in March. It really is a Christmas film back to front. I'm not going to judge other people. You can watch Home Alone whenever the fuck you want. But for me, this falls into that same category. And I won't say them because we're going to come across them when we say what we're going to do over the next few weeks. But there are a certain number of films where I'm like, I'm only watching these at Christmas, and Home Alone is one of them. Yeah. It is quintessential Christmas, which I guess brings us on to our next choice. I mean, we're doing 4 Christmas podcasts back to back. 4 of our favorite. I mean, we agree on nearly all of them, which is a good thing. So there's none which, you love and I hate or whatever. But I think it's your choice next week because I picked this one.
So and I was going to say, it seamlessly goes into that then, because you've said about films we watch at Christmas and the films we always choose. And it's perfect because this is my go-to Christmas Eve film. Since I was a kid, I used to watch it with my father all the time. I watch it now. I watch it with my wife. We watch it every Christmas Eve. We'll watch it a bit earlier this year for the podcast. But it's Scrooged. Bill Murray Scrooge.
We're talking about how when we agree, we totally agree. And Scrooge is maybe, I'm not saying it's as good a film as Home Alone, but it's probably my favorite Christmas film. I think I love the whole Christmas Carol narrative. You do well to mess up a Christmas Carol, full stop. But Scrooge might be my favorite Christmas film, and it is without question the one I've watched the most. I absolutely adore this film, and I can't wait to cover this next week. I think it's going to be a great one. It's a great choice.
Should we just not do the podcast next week? We've already said we
love it. No, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think about it because I'm not sure if it is a 5-star. But I love this film, but as I said, I'm not sure it's as well made or as Home Alone. I think it'll be interesting. It's not going back to a film because I definitely watched it last Christmas. But it's always different with this podcast. You watch it in a different way. Yeah. I will watch Scrooge in a way I haven't. You're just going in more critically. Usually I just let it wash over me. Oh, it's a Christmas movie. I love Christmas. I love Scrooge. Everything's great. Whereas this year, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be writing notes. I'm going to be picking apart where required. So I'm still totally looking forward to rewatching this.
To be fair,
and as I said, I would have been watching it anyway. It's Scrooge at Christmas.
To be fair, it's for this one alone, it's gonna be really hard to separate head from nostalgia.
Oh yeah, head from heart, all that stuff. Yeah. That is the issue with a few of these films where I love them so much, and I have such a connection to them, and I've seen this film so many times that it will be hard to kind of, as you say, kind of take a more critical approach. But that's not the point of this podcast. Obviously, we have the whole would you encourage other people to watch it while you're rating now. But I can tear this potential. I'm not saying I'm going to, but I could tear a film apart. Like a perfect example was last week not last week. When did we do Running Man? A couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Where I still love that film, but going back with a critical eye, that film doesn't hold up. It's not a very good film. But I still totally enjoyed it. I still love Running Man. I'm still going to watch it again. But I'm not saying that's going to happen with Scrooge, but it'll be interesting to go back and watch it again all the same. But as always, try and watch it. There's no reason not to. It's Christmas. Watch Scrooged. And thanks for joining us. And please, do join us next week. But,
we really hope you...
Sorry, a bit of a clumsy ending there, but, I think I got to the point.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode. And after Scrooge, we do have some other good Christmas films to come. So please just tune in.
Oh, yeah. And before I forget, because I always forget, here's Rob telling you where you can actually find us.
Yeah, so we're currently on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Hey You Guys 80s or at Hey You Guys 80s. And we're also on email at heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Please feel free to drop us any emails, any recommendations, or any reviews you have. But whilst we're on about that, wherever you get your podcasts, please also smash the subscribe button. Yes, I said smash.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Leave us a review and leave us some 5-star ratings as well. But make sure they're 5-star ratings.
Yeah. We're not interested in 1-star. 5-star. If it's not going to be 5-star, don't move smashing anything. Just leave your opinion to yourself. 5-star ratings only. But yeah, if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See you next week.